Fox News learning brand new details about the Benghazi attack and how the survivors waited hours for aid for one of the most severely wounded survivors. Fox News is the first news organization to make contact with David Ubben, a diplomatic security agent who risked his life to try and save his colleagues and help defend our consulate that night. This coming as this week, a group of congressmen have sent a letter to Secretary of State John Kerry saying the State Department has refused for months now to provide Congress with contact information of these survivors. So why isn't Congress getting the answers it needs and that it's looking for? Congressman Mike Turner is a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He joins us right now. Congressman, good of you to join us today. Let's get right to it. What do you want from the State Department as well as from the White House?
We have to remember this scandal began with the administration telling the American public a fiction, that there was spontaneous demonstrations that resulted in our ambassador being killed in Benghazi, which we later learned from Gregory Hicks, Deputy Chief of Mission, on site that in fact this was a terrorist attack, known to be a terrorist attack from the beginning. Also, we learned from Gregory Hicks that there were troops that could have made it to Benghazi that wanted to leave and go and to provide aid, but were told to stand down. So we have the administration starting with a fiction and Congress then beginning its investigation to find out really what happened in these Americans being killed and losing our ambassador. So we asked both for the chain of command, those in the military chain of command, and survivors. The administration continues to stonewall, and that's why this is a scandal. They started by not telling the truth, and now they won't even let us have access to those who might tell us what really happened.
Congressman, based on the information that Fox News has learned about David Ubben, who was a survivor, who risked his life, was injured, stayed on a rooftop for some 20 hours before any medical help arrived there to help him, and that his injuries have been so severe that he is still recovering from this. Do you have or do you want access to him, and why haven't you been able to get it so far?
Well, that's very troubling, and the State Department is not making him available. And certainly, you know, David is a hero.
Why not, Congressman? Why not? The American people should have some transparency here.
Absolutely, and those are the questions that I think the American people need answered and we need answered. Why is the administration stonewalling? I think because they don't want us to know that, in fact, the administration should have been taking action that night that would have both protect Americans, and that, you know, in fact, this unfolded very clearly as a terrorist attack, that there should have been resources to protect these Americans, that they should have responded quickly, and for some reason the administration would prefer to leave the American public with just the administration's fiction.
Congressman, to see how you've been stonewalled from the administration, one would have to assume that something is going on that doesn't meet the eye. It doesn't pass the muster test.
Well, and that's, of course, why this is a real scandal. And no matter what the administration tries to say of that, you know, Congress is creating scandals, the administration is. They were not forthcoming as to what happened in the loss of our ambassador and other Americans' lives, and now they're trying to prevent us from getting to the truth. We're not going to give up on this. We're going to hold accountable those who should have been protecting Americans, and we're certainly going to hold this administration accountable for the decision-making that was in the chain of command that led to this very dangerous situation and loss of American lives.
In an earlier segment within this past hour, my colleague Jamie Colby and Angela McLaughlin, one of our Fox News contributors, talked about illusion and not solutions, referring to these quote-unquote phony scandals. This situation in Benghazi arguably is no phony scandal at all because 4 people are dead.
Well, and the only phony thing in this is the administration's response. Remember, they tried to tell us that this was a result of spontaneous demonstrations and a YouTube video, when in fact, all along on the ground, Gregory Hicks, Deputy Chief of Mission, tells us that this was a terrorist attack, that Susan Rice, who went and told the American public that this was a spontaneous demonstration and not a terrorist attack, hadn't even spoken to the people on the ground. The only phony thing that's going on is the administration's creation of fiction, and Congress is going to get to the bottom of this. We will get answers, we will find out what happened, what should have happened, and hold those accountable.
So, Congressman, where do you go from here? How do you get to the bottom of this, particularly when you're facing some stonewalling and opposition? And let's face it, if there's nothing wrong, reveal the sources, reveal the people, bring them forward, and let the American people hear and the members of Congress hear so that we can move forward from this.
Absolutely, because the administration, starting with the fiction, hasn't said, oh, I'm sorry, we were wrong, here's the real answer. They've instead said, no, we're not going to let you get to the answer. But, you know, Congress is not dependent upon the administration to allow us to get to the answer. Congress has powers of investigation. We will pursue those. We will hold this administration accountable. We will get those who know the story to come forward, and eventually the administration is going to have to deal with the truth being told to the American public. It's just a shame that the administration is not going to be a partner in telling the American public what really happened that night and what should have happened.
And for those who come forward, like David Ubben, if and when he should come forward, will there be any retribution against his statements?
Well, certainly Congress is going to ensure that there's not. I mean, we're going to make certain that the administration does not, cause people to be punished for actually telling the truth. But I think the thing that we also need to be concerned about, in addition to what happened that night, the fact that the administration is trying to tell a fiction to the American public, is that we have people all across the globe that are serving our nation, and they need to know that when they're at risk, the American, full force of our military and our security forces are going to be there to protect them. They're not going to be left as they were in Benghazi that night, wondering where is the support from the American government.
Congressman Turner, before I let you go, David Ubben displayed courage under fire, stayed at his post, continued to try to help out his friends. A tragedy unfolded there. He's a survivor. What do you say about his heroic actions on that night that terror struck in Benghazi?
Well, that's in part why we do these types of investigations, because we don't ever want another David Ubben to be standing there saying, surely the Americans will come, surely the support will come, surely security forces will come to protect us, and then have them not come. We want to make certain that the next time that there's an issue like that, that they know that we're behind them and security forces will be there.
Congressman Mike Turner, we thank you for joining us and sharing your perspective on us, and we'll continue to follow the developments as Congress tries to get to the bottom of this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Thank you, Congressman. We're going to talk